Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Candyce Slusher with Slusher Consulting. We were talking about things that to notice during the holidays with your loved ones who may be older or may be suffering from disabilities. But first, I wanted to ask you about Slusher Consulting. Tell us about that.
Okay, so now the first thing I say about that is, when it comes to good branding, you want to say what you do. Mm-hmm. And my business does not say what I do. But then I thought, I'm going to put a positive spin on that. I could switch and just start consulting on absolutely anything, and it wouldn't really matter, I guess. But what I really consult on is senior care and home care agencies. This is just kind of the realm I've been in about the last 20 years now, and or maybe 20, well, I guess my whole career in some capacity. So the majority of what I do is helping agencies who serve our seniors in their community, primarily in Texas, but a little bit nationally. And whether that's with starting a new agency or their current, existing businesses that need help with compliance or operations, or things are just falling apart, or, maybe they've had a change in leadership and need some help. But I also still consult with families when they call me. So I do a little brief consultation, and it's not my bread and butter, but it is my mission and my ministry, and it feels good to me.
Tell us, what is home care? How would you define that?
So home care is different than home health. In Texas, the language is very specific. So with home health would be where a nurse comes out, a physical therapist, maybe a social worker, and that's temporary, and it's paid by your medical insurance. With home care, it is non-medical, so you would get usually an unlicensed caregiver, sometimes a certified nurse aide, to help with the daily things. I kind of say we pick up where home health leaves off, because while the home health can just make visits, we can stay for up to 24 hours a day if needed to help with little things or big things, whether it's taking somebody to the doctor, making sure they have clean sheets on their beds and their food is prepared so they don't have to just eat frozen or canned foods because they're not able to withstand cooking anymore. Companionship, company, that isolation and depression type stuff I mentioned, or just assistance with your activities of daily living, which they call ADLs.
Right.
Like you just need, maybe you only do a sponge bath because you don't feel safe in the shower, so let's get you in a shower. And everybody's skin needs a good soaking now and again, you know. All the way up to bedbound care and end-of-life care that we can support. So it's a very wide range of services with unlicensed personnel. That's typically paid for either private pay or through Medicaid or a managed care organization, or long-term care insurance does cover this. Most long-term care insurance now policies have a home care rider. It sometimes is less than what it would pay for a facility care, but still has a rider that would pay for some services. And then now there's some Medicare Advantage plans that are covering a temporary home care type of service as a post-hospitalization benefit to allow them to transition back to home safer, to reduce those rehospitalizations. That's newer since 2019, and that's really ramping up since COVID.
Okay.
And the government really kind of paid attention. Okay, home care is very, very important for these people who can't get out.
And so let's say we have identified that our loved one needs some type of additional help at home. What's it like during the holidays for you in your working years and for your staff to be with somebody during the holidays? Do they try and celebrate somehow with them?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly we want to honor that person's traditions. Do they always decorate, but you're not physically capable, then we're going to help you. You may not get on a ladder to put up the lights,
right,
but we can certainly help you decorate your tree and make all your old family recipes, and let's bake those cookies and do what you would normally do. The big idea is to try to help our clients live as normal of a life as possible, regardless of their medical or physical situation, But then also celebrating when families come around, and maybe we aren't needed all the time when families are there, but we would still come in the morning and help them get up and get dressed so that they can just have that meaningful day with their family.
Oh, okay.
And then we can go home and spend our meaningful day with our families too. Yeah, so there are a lot more visitors around, but that doesn't, eliminate the need for extra support oftentimes, because if the families come in and there's no one there and the client still needs help, or, the person needs assistance,
Right.
well then, the family walks in working,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just being the daughter or the granddaughter. Now you
Right.
also have to be the caregiver. So when you have that extra support, it's a big help and dynamic. It's allows the family to just be family for a lot
Right.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other signs besides depression that somebody might notice when they're visiting from out of town?
Well, some of the more obvious things might be weight loss or even weight gain. Again, when a senior is not willing to cook anymore, not always able, but they're just like, I don't care anymore. I don't want to cook anymore. Then they may just eat frozen foods, which are high in
Or
salt.
fast food?
Yeah, even the quote healthy choice stuff has so much sodium in it that if you
Oh, I
have any
didn't know
kind of
that.
blood pressure issues, yeah, just because it has a green label and it says the word healthy doesn't really mean anything. So the more fresh prepared foods they can eat, the better. And a lot of times that's one of the first things you'll see is a difference in their physical physique. Maybe they've lost weight or gained because
Okay.
of what they're eating or not eating.
Yeah.
And the kinds of food that are in the refrigerator, but also is there old food? Are they eating things that should have been thrown out? How much of the refrigerator is expired? Those are all things to look at. You're going to want to look at skin. Is their skin particularly dry? Are their lips dry? Maybe they're not getting enough hydration. And then, of course, also looking at bathing for that. Dehydration can rear its ugly head in lots of different ways. A common way is UTIs or urinary tract
okay.
infections that might come up, and those can also cause behavioral problems because an
Right.
infection in somebody over 65 is a whole different ballgame than it would be for you
It
or
makes
I.
them forgetful and
Forgetful,
make bad.
falls, behaviors, anger, emotional outbursts sometimes happen. It's tragic what that can do to a senior's body. And then hygiene, body odor, the cleanliness of their clothes. Who is changing their sheets? Are they physically capable of that? How
Yeah.
often might it happen? What's going on with that? Mobility, is their gait any different? Are they shuffling when maybe they weren't before last time you saw them? Are they able to get out of their chair or their bed or off the toilet without help? Do they just need some grab bars and a walker? Maybe they just need a little bit of equipment. And then maybe things like general cleanliness of the house. Is it different than what it always has been? Mom used to keep a pretty neat house, and now things are in disarray. Look at the pill bottles. Look at the dates on the pill bottles. If this pill
That's a
bottle
good
is
tip.
only is a 90-day prescription and it's still half full from 3 months ago, they're not taking them.
Well, my mom was a prepper. She had to keep every pill that she ever got.
Right, thinking you never know when the pharmacy's going to shut down
Right,
and you're going to
right.
need it. But not taking medications is also a big cause of just exacerbations of disease processes that might already be there. High blood pressure, no big deal. High blood pressure untreated can be a big deal.
Right.
I mean, long-term uncontrolled high blood pressure can have the same effects as a stroke as far as dementia and cognitive, issues go. And then, look at their skin. Are there bruises or skin tears? Are they falling? Those commonly are unreported, especially at the beginning, until the senior gets to the point that they just can't get themselves up. They may have fallen a dozen times before anybody knows.
Right.
And then looking at safety concerns like lighting and clutter and rugs on the floor and things like that. And then just forgetfulness. You want to spend some time with your loved ones having real conversations.
Yeah.
Not just the chit chat on the phone, right? We hear this all the time that a spousal caregiver will take their loved one to the doctor and say, there's some forgetfulness, there's some dementia, and the doctor's like, I don't see it. Because in that 15 minutes, they can keep up
Right.
social niceties. It's very easy to conceal that in a chit chat type of conversation. But if you haven't seen your loved one, you need to spend some time talking to them, and you'll be able to see that they can't recall events or dates, or they're confused about, oh, I thought you were coming next week, or, little things like
Right.
that, they add up. Or sometimes you'll see notes that they write, little stickies to themselves all over the house to try to remind themselves because they've already noticed and they're compensating. And so that's when it's time, somebody needs to step in and say, let's just get this checked out with the doctor, Dad. Let's
Yeah.
really look. And then also, lastly, I think if they have a car and they still drive, you're going to want to check that car for dings and scratches.
Oh, yeah.
Is the inspection being done? Are they capable of the maintenance that needs to be done on that vehicle? And when those things start to, again, just little tiny hints. So one little hint in each of these areas, that means your loved one needs help.
Yeah, I remember I was looking at my mom's bank statements and I saw this deposit from Allstate, and I said, "What's this?" And she said, "Oh, I got in an accident." Mm-hmm. She didn't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that leads a lawyer like me to worry about all the bad stuff that could be happening, not just the neglect of self, but criminals coming into their lives and trying to take advantage of them. There was a client I had. I did her estate plan and her husband's probate. Probably years later, her financial advisor called me and said, I think something's going on with Mrs. So-and-so, because I noticed that she kept calling to ask for her stocks to be liquidated because she was fixing her house. And he said, so I went out there to find out if it was like falling down, and it wasn't. And so then we got her son on the conference call because he didn't know. They weren't estranged, but he lived clear across country, and said, you might want to come down and start helping Mom. And they filed police reports, and they did catch the contractor crooks. But it just goes to show you that you really do have to watch out for them.
Yeah. I mean, they can be vulnerable, and they're embarrassed. It's shameful to feel like they were taken advantage of when 10 years ago that wouldn't have happened. They would have caught that before it happened.
And they don't really know that it's coming or happening when it's happening.
Right. And people who, scammers are creative, and they're sharp, and they're using all sorts of tools that didn't even exist 20 years ago. Right. You know what I mean? So we don't even know what to look for always until it starts happening. And that can be scary. So you will find those seniors who trust no one because they've watched the news enough.
Right.
But then there are people who, when you get to a certain age, you become vulnerable. You need more help in certain areas. And so you want to trust somebody and think that you can make that decision for yourself. And ideally you can, but that doesn't mean, you don't have to be impaired in any way to be fooled,
right,
to be lied to.
Right, that's
right.
true.
That happens to me. It could happen to you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The one that I can warn people about right now is if somebody calls you and says that your grandchild is in jail in a foreign country, the very best first thing you should do is call that grandchild and see if they pick up the phone, because they probably will. That's a big popular scam. Another one is the Jamaican lottery. Just it's not happening. Don't play the lottery in a foreign country.
Well, and it can even be littler things. Like I once had a client who was referred by Adult Protective Services because he just got into some sort of phone scam where somebody would call him and talk to him and just be real nice to him. He was lonely, and they would have to hang up and ask him to call back. And $10,000 later in phone bills, his sister calls Adult Protective Services, and he had to have somebody there just to. That was it. That's all there was to call him back, and then he would call back and they'd say, "Oh, hold on, I'm gonna come right back. Just put the phone down." He'd put it down and forget about it and go on about his day and leave the phone on for 24/7.
Oh my gosh!
And $10,000 in phone bills.
That's crazy.
It's.
Well, we got to take another break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about what it's like during the holidays. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the Ten Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.